You're watching the 18 WJTS News. I'm Joy Holt. In top stories around the area, the primary election has come and gone, and we'll be taking a look at some of the big winners who caused upsets locally and across the state. And in Huntingburg, a longtime local resident was presented with the Sagamore of the Wabash. Hoosier Republicans have spoken. Last night, Mike Braun was selected as the Republican nominee best suited to defeat Senator Joe Donnelly in November. Primary elections across Indiana drew to a close last night, bringing with it an end to one of the most highly anticipated Republican races in the nation between Jasper businessman and Washington outsider Mike Braun and longtime politicians Luke Messer and Todd Rokita for a seat on the November Republican ticket for U.S. Senate. Mike Braun, taking an early lead over his opponents, never lost steam as the night rolled on. Just before 9 p.m., Todd Rokita seceded from the race, leaving Braun to win with over 40% of the vote. Last night at Meyer Distributing corporate headquarters in Jasper, a group of Braun supporters, including personal friends, employees, and community leaders, gathered to cheer on the Jasper native as election results came in. Campaign volunteer and longtime employee Jason Lentz says Braun's lead was no surprise.
Well, anytime you go into, something like this, obviously you have high hopes and high expectations, and we know Mike is very solid and he's going to be great for the state of Indiana. So with saying that, I think it is a little surprised that the numbers were so large so quickly. I think the end result we expected to be a nice margin, but ultimately two solid candidates going up against Mike. Both Rokita and Messer. We just really didn't know, but we're very excited, that the numbers ended up where they did thus far.
Elsewhere, incumbent Larry Bucshon came out strong and finished with a win for the Republican nomination for U.S. Representative District 8, receiving 65% of the vote, beating out Rachel Covington of Evansville and Richard Moss of Jasper. Bucshon will face Democrat William Tnous in the fall. Du Bois County saw a very small amount of contested races, with action occurring for the Democratic nomination for the Indiana House District 63 seat and nominations within the town of Birdseye. Nominations on the Democratic ticket for Birdseye Town Council included Mary Ann Cummings, Clyde Huff, Lisa Huff, and Roy Partenheimer. Winning that race was Cummings with 54 votes, followed by Partenheimer with 52 votes, and finally Lisa Huff with 41 votes. And Priscilla Atkins and Brett Ecker will advance, as they both will be placed on the Republican ticket for Birdseye Town Council in the November election. Vying for a spot on the Democratic ticket for Birdseye Clerk Treasurer were Brittany Sheppers, who beat out Kelly Wiseman, with Sheppers receiving 53 votes to Wiseman's 21. Joe Lannon of Lagodi defeated Dennis Tedrow of Jasper by securing 77% of the vote to Tedrow's 23 precinct. Lannon will take on Republican incumbent Shane Lindauer of Jasper in the November general election. In Spencer County, they saw highly anticipated races for nominations for county sheriff and the coroner's office. On the Republican ticket for Spencer County Sheriff, Kermit Lindsay took 60% of the vote with 1,346 tallies, beating out Dale Meredith, who received 591 votes, and Harvey Merrick, who saw 303. Unopposed for county sheriff on the Democratic ticket was Kelly Rinke, who will now face Lindsay in November's general election. In the Spencer County coroner race, Republican nominee Rachel Gentry won with nearly 49% of the vote, defeating Matt Conan and Alan Shords. Conan saw 33% of the vote, with Shords garnering just under 18%. Chris Anderson ran unopposed on the Democratic ticket and will face Gentry in November. In the Democratic race for Luce Township trustee, Bonnie Young, with 111 votes, defeated Peter Rapp, who picked up 56, and for the Luce Board Republican nomination, Ramona Beatty, Rick Garrett, and Mayola Tolliver will all receive the nod, with Twyla Kemp coming in short. Two contested races in Perry County have Alan Malone with 1,738 votes defeating Marty Hoffey with 976 votes for the Democratic nomination for Perry County Sheriff, and Nick Achen defeated Gary Huffins 618 to 190 for the Republican nomination for coroner. In Pike County primary election results, Kent Johnson outpaced John Bellamy and Brad Jenkins for the Democratic nomination for Pike County Sheriff. He will take on Frank Coleman Jr. in November after Coleman defeated Jerry Davis in the Republican race for sheriff. Heath Scraper topped Stephen Vian for the Democrat nomination for Pike County Commissioner District 2. He will face John Craig, who secured the Republican nomination over Charles Lemond and Sean McGillum. And for the Republican nomination for Pike County Council District 3, it was Max Elliott over Jim Johns. And in Crawford County for the Democrat nomination for County Council District 3, Dale Roll defeated Douglas McLean, Republican County Council District 4. It was Chad Riddle over Jeffrey Mitchell. For the Republican nomination for Crawford County Prosecuting Attorney, Nicholas Haverstock defeated Lester Shelton. And for the Republican nomination for Crawford County Sheriff, Jeff Howe outpaced 6 other opponents to secure that nomination. The 2018 general election will take place November 6th. All local election results can be found on our website, WJTS.tv. Last night, the Huntingburg City Council met and gave a big surprise to an unsuspecting citizen. Huntingburg Mayor Denny Spinner presented a Sagamore of the Wabash Award to Eugene Peters on behalf of Governor Eric Holcomb. Peters has graced the Huntingburg community throughout his life with work in government, local schools, and athletics. He is a past president of the Huntingburg Redevelopment Commission, a former city councilman, and former member of the Utility Service Board, Planning Commission, Board of Public Works, Housing Authority, Utility Rate Advisory Board, and the Huntingburg Volunteer Fire Department. Mayor Spinner and former Mayor Gail Kemp saluted Peters as well as his family and friends who also attended the meeting. A documentary film about the development of Indiana's state park system is available online. The Division of State Parks says the 42-minute film Origins tells the story of Richard Lieber, a German immigrant and early conservationist who led efforts to develop Indiana state parks more than 100 years ago. The film also tells how Lieber overcame disappointment after a failed first attempt to purchase the land that became Turkey Run State Park. Storyteller Bob Sander developed the film and narrates it. He wrote Origins in 2016 with funding from a grant through the Indiana Arts Commission as part of the State Park Centennial Celebration. Indiana's first state park, McCormick's Creek, opened on July 4, 1916, followed that year by Turkey Run. The system has grown to 32 properties statewide. A recent survey showed Indiana farmers planted 970,000 acres of cover crops last year. Cover crops are now the 3rd most planted crop in the state, next to corn and soybeans. Jill Reinhart, acting state conservationist for Indiana's Natural Resources Conservation Service, says with the late harvest and heavy rains, farmers experienced last fall seeing close to 1 million acres of cover crops growing is no small accomplishment. It's also worth celebrating, she says. This year's data shows that Indiana once again sets the bar nationally when it comes to incorporating conservation on the farm. The Conservation Service says cover cropping has many benefits, including increased organic matter, improved soil biology, as well as better water infiltration and water holding capacity. The practice also prevents nutrients and sediment from running off the farm, keeping them out of nearby water bodies and streams. To learn more about the survey, you can visit the website www.in.gov/ISDA. That's been a look at news here on 18 WJTS. Stay tuned. Up next, we'll be taking a look at what's in store for weather as the area could see a few stormy days ahead.